Hey, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. Beth and Minnie. I'm surrounded by beautiful women. So Beth is here to talk about volleyball because let's be honest, we need a break from football right now. And things are getting really, what heated is not the word I want to use. Things are getting really scruffy. We're angry. We're bitter. We're upset about football, and volleyball is not that upsetting because Beth, we are kicking ass.
Yeah, we are doing a really nice job of beating a lot of people, and number one on that list that we got to celebrate this weekend was beating Wisconsin, and not just beating them, but in straight sets beating them 1-2-3 match over in their field house. So yeah, let's celebrate that.
Did you expect that?
Not at all. No. No, I thought it would be 4, but probably 5. It just is with these two teams so often. They're both really good. And this Wisconsin team is playing really well right now. They had just beaten Purdue, and I thought it would be 4 at least sets, and was surprised at how well we handled each one of those sets, just in control. And when they did lose some points in a row, how they were just able to flip it and find another way to score. So I was surprised in a good way.
That was Friday night.
Yeah, they played on Friday night in Madison, and then they traveled, and then on Sunday they played Northwestern. And Northwestern's towards the bottom of the Big Ten. They're 3rd or 4th from the bottom, so that wasn't supposed to be a tough match. So we also got to see Layla Blackwell in the middle. She doesn't usually start, but she did in the 3rd set for Rebecca Alec. And then we also saw Lindsay Krause, who hasn't been starting. Taylor Landfair's been starting as the second outside hitter, but Lindsay Krause came in towards the end of the 3rd set, and she looked really good. And we care about that because there are going to be matches when Taylor Landfair is not effective, or we haven't seen it yet where one of our middles hasn't been effective, but it will happen. There'll be something that happens. And so those two players being real fresh and playing in matches is important, both in the last part of this conference season and into the NCAA tournament.
We have weapons. You know what I did on Friday night? My wife and I are so busy. She does a lot of stuff at her church, and she's Bible study stuff and all this stuff all the time, and working with children's groups and stuff. I said, we're going to watch a movie Friday night, and we watched Dune 2. And I absolutely love, I think Dune was probably one of the greatest science fiction book ever written, because just the complexity of it and stuff like that. Dune 2 is absolutely beautiful. I like to watch movies 3 years after they come out so I can talk about them and people think you're smart because you have a good memory, and really you just watch the movie. So we got done with Dune 2 and I went, oh my God, the volleyball game's on, and we flipped it over and watched us crush them. And I think one of the interesting contrasts from Wisconsin and Nebraska, and you're going to tell me if I'm nuts or not. When you're watching Nebraska volleyball, it's clear that there's a love affair going on. I mean, there's a love affair between all the players. There's a love affair between the coaching staff and the players. When you watch him play Devaney, there's a love affair, a cult-like love affair in the crowd. But when you watch Wisconsin, it's like you're watching a bunch of machines. Mm-hmm. And I don't see the same, they just look like they've been very good robots in the past, but now I think that hurts them. I know that we have Laney, Showboy, and we have the best libero in the nation in Lexi. Mm-hmm. And they have been hurt because they've lost their people in that position, right?
No, that's a good point. Yeah, Wisconsin in their back row is down. They usually have is equal to Nebraska's backcourt players in skill, and they don't this year. They probably will develop, but what they've settled on is that there's a freshman playing libero now. They had been doing like a split libero thing. One girl played defense and the other one serve received. But now they're just playing the freshmen, and there are lots of freshmen that can come into NCAA situations and make impacts. And she's a good libero, but she's not a great libero. She isn't probably in the ready state to get out there and play for Wisconsin. So they are down in that way, and they're vulnerable with their serve receive. Dog curious.
Oh, who's that?
She's curious. She wants to tell us about volleyball.
Well, tell us her name.
She's Annie. Getting her water. So their serve receive is challenged, and I think Nebraska exploited that on Friday night. They, beat Wisconsin in that serve and pass game. They passed really well. Nebraska passed really well. They served tough, and Wisconsin had trouble with it.
Ooh.
So, where am I going next? Where do I just want? Yeah, let's pull this up.
Well, okay.
Go ahead, Manny.
Well, Linda Wilkins wants to know, Beth, did you go to West Point?
I did go to West Point.
That's right. I think I remember you telling us about that.
Okay, back. Yeah,
is that,
I did.
Is that
I
where
went
you
to West Point? I was in the Army. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And where did you play volleyball?
At West Point. So yeah, West Point's a college, and it's also training for Army officers. And so I played. They're called Army West Point now. So you see the football team. What are they? 21 in the country now.
Yeah.
And so
Really?
those young men on that team say they go to college every day. They go to classes, and then they play football too, Division I, but then right when they graduate, they'll be second lieutenants in the Army.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
I
know. I love that.
Yeah,
what, John?
Volleyball for them, and then did my Army career, and then went back and coached at Army West Point for a little bit before moving out to Nebraska and getting the love of the Cornhuskers in my skin.
We're so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
We are. I agree with that.
That's impressive.
Okay. I'm going to put this up. This is the Big Ten standings, the volleyball standings as of today. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. We've just got done sweeping Northwestern. Thursday night is Oregon. I don't know what they're ranked, but they're pretty damn good.
They're number 12 in the country, John.
Okay. Washington.
They're just outside the top 25, like 27 or something. They don't actually give those people numbers, but they're right outside the top 25. They've split with Oregon. So Washington's beat Oregon and Oregon's beat Washington.
Then we have Minnesota on November 14th.
Yeah, Minnesota's ranked 14th right now. They've done some good things, but they've also had some shaky losses.
And here's the thing with the Minnesota game. Since we don't play Minnesota in football, the Broken Chair Trophy, which every year has raised money for Team Jack, is doing a fundraiser around volleyball. So I should have put up go to brokenchairtrophy.com and you can contribute to that so we can beat Minnesota in the Team Jack or the Broken Chair Trophy challenge. Again, this is the only unrecognized trophy that is also a charity fundraiser. And I know those guys that do this. And years ago, I said, why did you start a fundraiser? What we all wanted was for the Broken Chair Trophy to get recognized as an official trophy by both schools, and Nebraska just won't do it. And I said, well, you also wanted it to not go away. And they said, yeah, that's why we have fundraisers for children, because who can say no to children? And I thought that was so ingenious. So remember that if you're going to do start fundraisers for children, who's going to say no to children? Right. But it is for Team Jack. So there you go. Anyway, Minnesota on November 14th. Then we got Indiana. Then we have lowly Iowa. And then we finish this season in November with Wisconsin in Lincoln and Penn State at University Park. And if you'll notice right up there, Penn State and Nebraska, both 12-0. This is a big November for our beloved Lady Huskers, or our Husker volleyball team.
Well, let's add a layer to that, John. So the national rankings go Pitt is number 1, Nebraska is number 2, and we don't care so much about the rankings, but Penn State is number 3, and Penn State is starting 2 former Huskers. So Caroline Jaravicius transferred last year. She was a freshman for Nebraska. She redshirted. She really didn't play at all. And Maggie Mendelson was a dual sport athlete. She played basketball and volleyball. She's a middle. They both are now starting for Penn State. And they're, Maggie Mendelson is having the better season of the two of them. She's an impact player for Penn State. She's doing really well. Caroline Jaravich is still sort of competing for her right side position. But anyways, 2 former Huskers on that team transferred through the summer and starting for Penn State now, the number 3 team in the country. And as you see up there, the only other undefeated team in the conference. So yeah, there's a big lead up to that Penn State match, and it will probably have conference title implications.
Did they purposely schedule it like this? I mean, Penn State's been down and now suddenly they're back in the mix. Are they back in the mix because they're that good? Are they back in the mix because Wisconsin's dropped a step and Minnesota isn't up there? And you know what I mean?
Yeah, those 2 transfers certainly helped them. They also have a phenomenal freshman setter. She's been setter of the week lots of times for the Big Ten already. Her name's Izzy Stark. She plays with her sister on Penn State's team. So she's really good. I think those 3 incoming players have made a big difference for them. So I think they've been climbing back after Russ Rose, their former head coach, retired after his 40-some years at the helm. His former assistant is the head coach now, and she's doing a nice job. Her name's slipping me right now, but I'm sure somebody will tell us in the chat. Anyways, Penn State and Nebraska at the end of the season is a big match, and I look forward to that one a lot. I mean, the Wisconsin rematch is also a really big one too. I don't think we will see the same outcome. I didn't expect 3 sets on Friday night, but I really don't expect 3 sets in later November. When we're in the Devaney Center and Wisconsin comes to town, they will have made adjustments. Sarah Franklin will have made adjustments.
Right.
Where, Anna Schmreck, I don't know how many adjustments she has. I think she's a player who just hasn't played a lot yet. So seeing the court and making those mid-match adjustments is a pretty high-level skill. But Wisconsin will come with a different game plan, and they'll have some backup plans too, because obviously they did not play a great match against us on Friday. They'll come with a bit more ammunition in later November.
I wept for them. I just cried.
You did not.
I did.
Joe Lakis says he said.
Badgers.
Oh, go ahead.
Go.
He says, thankfully, Penn State plays at Wisconsin before the Huskers go play Penn State. Is that true?
Yeah, those 2 teams will play each other and settle some of the, I don't know, conference layout. I'm never any good at this game of figuring out if so-and-so beats so-and-so. I don't know. I just watch it and enjoy it. But those 2 teams playing ahead of time. But, if Penn State comes out on top, then aren't we still in the same situation? But yeah, they'll play each other, and all good info too for the coaching staff to see how those teams go at each other. How does Penn State try to beat Wisconsin? How does Wisconsin try to beat Penn State? That's all strategy stuff.
Awesome. You know what? We'll do a few more comments. Fred Sacco says the intro is a live look at the intro is a live look at Satterfield lost in the cornfield. We'll get to that in a little bit. Probably you should use that as a segue. Vince Watson says Nebraska is a volleyball school. Well, I think that's apparent. What I don't think is apparent is that we can be many things at one time. After tonight, we might start being a men's basketball school and a women's basketball school. I watched while I was diligently working for my customers. I watched the women's basketball game against UNO today. We were ahead 47-15 at half. So you know what struck me? I watched the men's basketball exhibition game, and I watched today's women's basketball game. And what struck me about the women's basketball team is they look like a team that's played together for a long time, despite the fact that Britt Prince is brand new and Allison Wiedner is, been injured for 2 years in a row. They look very cohesive. Of course, they didn't have really great competition, but whatever. We're going to cover as many sports as we can, just because that's what we do at CornNation. All right. Charles Hullett said sweeping Wisconsin, sweeping whiskey in their crib had to feel good. I just looked how glum they were. That's what I enjoyed the most. I like to see pain. And if they could have cut to shots of their fans weeping, I would have been that much happier. Because yes, I am that kind of person. James Boardman says, I've watched more volleyball this year than I ever had. It is fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree with James. Volleyball is a fun sport, and that it's on so many TV channels now. We all get to watch it, at more will. You don't have to pay for it as much if you've got whatever cable and you get it on BTN. I mean, Nebraska is almost always on BTN. And every stadium they're going to is setting an attendance record for that stadium. Northwestern set an attendance something in the match. And if you watched that match, it was a lot of red. I mean, it's not that far from Lincoln to, Evanston, Illinois? No. Where's Northwestern? Evanston.
Yeah.
And a lot of red in those stands, and it was just really full. The upper bowl was full for their stadium, so lots of fun to watch, and we're able to watch it more.
You know what the other problem is?
What?
Long pause. The other problem is this: my son and his fiance and their daughter, my granddaughter, want to go to the Wisconsin football game. Well, the Wisconsin volleyball game is that same day. And I thought, what they really want to do is they really want to go to a volleyball game. Guess how much tickets were when I looked them up? Between $284 and like $1,000 a piece. And that's why you would go to Northwestern to see the volleyball team because, God, there are no tickets available. By the way, if anybody has tickets available, let me know. But Blaine Cole says, same here, James. The Japanese Women's Pro League has some quality players from the U.S. So, I mean, it is an international sport. Husker for Life says, we could only be so lucky to have a good volleyball team and football team like Penn State. I did something Saturday I hadn't done in many, many years. A friend of mine invited me over to their house to watch the Ohio State-Penn State game. He is a Penn State alum, and he had some Ohio State people with him, and they watched Penn State lose again. And then they all whined about it. And I thought, you sons of bitches, your team's going to probably be in the college football playoff, and here you are weeping. And I went to beat him up, but then I regained my senses, and I didn't. But, it just goes to show you everybody's angry no matter where they're at, because if Penn State would have won that game, Ohio State fans would have wanted their coach fired. Louis Brazil asks, how does Cook keep all players motivated when some good players are not playing, like Lindsey Krause?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that's also like really individual to the team. I think it starts at the beginning of the season, way, way back, and you buy in as a player, right? There's a ton of preseason conversations and all sorts of goal setting, and you buy in as a team. You buy in as like, this is us. This is what we do. You set those mottos where the volleyball team says the race for the roses, where they're going to go play their championship match in Louisville, Kentucky. And, but it becomes a question again, like Lewis is asking, when you get to this time of the season and Lindsay is in her final year of eligibility and she's not seeing the court as much as maybe she hopes. Or, I imagine that he just ensures there's still the buy-in, right? Her role on the team is still defined and she knows where she can contribute. And he makes a point to not call his players coming into the match, the ones that don't start. He doesn't call them substitutes, which is sort of the traditional. He calls them game changers. And so it's almost like a challenge. Come into the game and change what's happening, because I'm probably bringing in that game changer because we need something to change. When Lindsay Krause comes in and it's not the third set against Northwestern, when she comes in set 4 against Pitt in the future, it probably is because something needs to change. And so if she buys into that role, then she is critical to the team and she isn't getting the same number of repetitions in the match, but she's playing a critical role that can win the championship or, whatever that moment is in front of her. So I think it's with those buy-ins early on in the season and then continuing to define the role that you are currently serving for that team.
He is a master at this.
Yeah. I mean, we've lost some players, but I think that's an element of the portal and the current state of NCAA sports. Yeah. But he's also kept a lot of players. Lainey Choboy knew what she was coming into this season. She would not be the starting libero. And Olivia Mock is equally talented, and she knew she wouldn't be the starting libero. So he brings those players in, I hope, with that upfront honesty and the clear picture of what it will be. And then he's also very clear that practice is about competing for those spots. And we compete at practice so that we can compete in the matches against the other team too.
There's that love factor too. There is. It literally is. There's a family there. You even saw it when, the girl, Allie Batenhorst came back. Mm-hmm. How much they all gathered together. And I don't know, they did silly videos on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. I try to stay off those now because it's just too consuming and,
hey, John, I want to throw this up here. From Thuzero, he says, as far as I'm concerned, that they deserve far more NIL money than those football players. And the reason I wanted to show that comment is because I watched Mark Manning today, the wrestling coach, and he was asked about NIL and certain sports that do not bring in revenue, right? How does volleyball compare? Does it bring, it sounds like it brings in quite a bit of revenue.
Nebraska volleyball is the only, quote, non-revenue sport in the nation that actually makes money, that clears a profit.
So volleyball in general doesn't make money, but Nebraska volleyball does.
Nebraska volleyball does, yes.
Wow.
This is all going to be a very, it's going to be very contentious what's going to happen. The House settlement, it appears, has been accepted, which means schools will start paying their players directly. And they have their choice of where they're going to divide that money up. And they will also have NIL or NIL on the side. So they will pay them, and they can also get NIL contracts. CNN says, oh, great, we get to be a volleyball and a women's basketball school. Shoot me now, please. Here's the thing with this. I think when you're a university and your idea is to pursue excellence, I think you pursue excellence. I think you don't look at some things and go, well, fuck that. We're not going to bother with that one. Even though I realize every university has limited resources to apply across our 22 sports, there's nothing wrong with us being a volleyball school and a women's basketball school and a men's basketball school and a baseball school, and hopefully get back to being a football school. It's this constant one thing at a time that always drives me nuts. I think if you look at Ohio State, one of the things that shocked me about this is look where Ohio State is on this. Are they showing up?
They're down under your thing, I think.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, hold on a second.
I think they're underneath the comment.
Yeah.
All right.
Ohio State is 3-9 in this conference.
Yeah.
That is not typical Ohio State volleyball, is it?
No, and I don't know why they aren't winning. They've got a lot. We've played them already. We beat them, but I don't know why they aren't winning. They've got a lot of the pieces there. They went through a really interesting thing a couple years ago. They had all these seniors or soon to be 5th year players, but they had all these recruits coming in. This was sort of like the clog of the COVID year eligibility. And so the coach decided to release all those 5th year players, and they went out and played. Mac Pedraza was a setter. She went and played for Penn State. One of their outside hitters, I forget her name, she went and played for Tennessee. They all went. One of the libero went and played for Minnesota, and they were all very high level players. And then she brought in all these freshmen. Well, these freshmen are sophomores now, and just not quite living up to the potential. They're not winning, and they're not winning matches that they really should, and they're not competitive against the top tier teams. Us, Nebraska, Penn State, they're not competitive. And I don't know. You're right. Ohio State's usually much better, and they should be much better, even with the squad they have this season.
I mean, when I look at a sport, when I look at an athletic department, I look at Ohio State's and the fact that I don't think they have the attitude that we're going to be a football school or we're going to be bad. They have the attitude that we're going to kick everybody's ass in everything we can. And I admire that. I think that should be your goal when it comes to sports. Now, the problem with the House settlement, it is going to come in and there's going to be so much outlay. I mean, if you don't pay your football team, everybody's going to want to kill you and hang your body in the street. That's the honest, that's not even an exaggeration. If you've seen comments on social media over the past few days about Nebraska football, but where all of this ends up and how many non-revenue sports get cut is what we're going to see in the next 2-3 years. You still have to have Title IX in play, not to pay players, but to keep the scholarships at an even level. In other words, it has to reflect the population of the university. So normally you're looking at a 50-50 cut for scholarships. There's a lot more to that conversation, and I'll go into that conversation, I think, at a later date. But Mr. Hot Z says, just tuned in. Is there a number to call in to talk football? There isn't. I've thought about doing that, but
that would be fun.
It would, but maybe I'll look into it over the off season. If we could have call-in shows, it might be even more dangerous than this. Because there are not a lot of the podcast people or a lot of the streaming people that do live shows, because you're all crazy, you people.
It's true.
Let's see. GBR for Far North says, if it wasn't for Husker volleyball, I would be spending twice as much on calming essential oils this year. Well, there you go. GBR for North also says, proudly a volleyball school. And we're going to have to go get this out of the way. Aaron Rostovsky says, I don't remember you getting the okay to use my likeness on the cover photo. If you remember last week, I had a cartoon character of a well-endowed woman, and the deal was this week I had to have a hunky man. So this week's thumbnail on YouTube is a hunky guy video. Or a hunky guy video picture. I tried to get it shirtless, but the AI would not do that. And I said, could you picture me when I was 21? And that's what it came up with is.
Yeah.
I used to be in better shape. Let's go back to Penn State for a moment. Russ Rose. I hated that guy. I called him every time we played them. I called him all sorts of names. I could not stand him. He just sat there with, the kind of like Jabba the Hutt with his attitude and his clipboard. And he's gone now. Is there anything here? If you don't know the answer to this now, I want you to look it up. Is there anything about the new Penn State coach that I can hate as much as I did about Jabba Rose?
I mean, they win. So if you hated them because they were winning a lot, you could hate her too. But they still win a lot.
Does she sneer?
No, she chews gum.
Ooh, she's a gum chewer.
She's a gum chewer.
One of those.
Attack.
Did you see the ESPN special on Russ Rose and the 4 years in a row that Penn State won the national championship?
No, by God, I didn't. I would not watch. I would look at that and go, what the hell? Who watches this garbage?
So I grew up in Michigan, and I dreamed of being recruited by Russ Rose. So I have the opposite view of him. I thought he was a great coach. I had teammates that went and played for him. I wished that I had the talent that they did to go play for him. But I watched that ESPN documentary on them, and I didn't think he came across as likable as I perceived him as a high school player. So maybe you will like this because he comes across as just a different coach than what I thought he was. And I don't know if I agree with
you mean a complete bastard. He was a complete bastard.
Yes, he came across as not as far as Bobby Knight, but he came across as very dominating, very I don't know, maybe some other fans out there saw it and have a perception too, but I didn't see the same Coach Rose that I thought I saw, both as a high school player, then as a college opponent, and I wished I had played for him. I have a couple other coaches I wanted to play for too, but no, I don't think you'll dislike this new coach as much as you disliked him.
Her name is Katie Schumacher Colley,
yeah, and she played for him at Penn State, and she was his assistant coach for a long time. I think she's pretty likable.
I bet she's one of those I think she's one of those my way of the highway people. I'm going to come up with something. I mean, it's easy. Who is it? Kelly Sheffield that coaches at Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to hate him. He just walks around like, again, there's the no love thing where it's, when you look at John Cook, again, we have this family going on, and the love we all have for volleyball and the team, and, it's everywhere. You can feel it in the air.
Yeah.
You went to Devaney.
Yeah. Oh, I love going to Devaney. I'm planning to be at the next Wisconsin match in Devaney.
Ooh.
Okay. and you joined the cult at Devaney. Tell people about what it's like. There are not every week or every home game, 90,000 people go to Memorial Stadium. And what, about 12,000 people go to Devaney?
More like 9,000. I think its capacity is 89, but then there's the standing room. But, I get the feeling before the match starts and before all the fans get in there, I like to go really early, and I like to watch warm-ups because it's like the most touches on the balls. The players are, doing these drills where they're setting the ball really high, and they're just touching the ball like they're in practice. So it's really impressive. So I'll go down to the floor level and just watch them. They're these highly skilled players. So I'll go as soon as they'll let me in and watch them play. But I get the feeling that those fans, as they're coming into their seats, they know that I don't normally sit there. They know the matches so well, and they know where everybody is. And they're like, what is that woman doing there? She doesn't belong. It's that much of a comfort zone for them. But
it's a cult. It is a cult. Oh my God.
It's a positive cult.
It is. I'm not using that word in any negative sense whatsoever, but holy cow.
Once everybody gets in there, though, that place just starts thumping. Like you can feel the energy. And
awesome.
Even as I was listening to the Northwestern game, it was a BTN announcer. And so he didn't really know whatever, but he watched the Nebraska fans, and they knew when to cheer. They knew when not to cheer. When it was a good rally, even one that Nebraska didn't win, they stood up and applauded the good play. So he even noticed in that arena. And that happens in Devaney times 10. Every fan in that stadium understands the game in a way that is like heartwarming. It's great that they know that when the block goes down to the floor, that feels so good. And the player is just booming with energy, and the crowd feels that too.
Okay. enough Big Ten, enough Nebraska. Pitt is number 1. And what's the difference? Our volleyball team is so. Go ahead with that question. What is the difference between Nebraska and Pitt?
So the number 1 ranking that Pitt is holding is through the American Volleyball Coaches Association,
right,
which is generally what everybody looks at, but there's a couple others out there. The reason they're number 1 is simply because they lost second. You know, Nebraska has lost and Pitt has lost, but they lost after us, and they lost to the same team that we lost to. So I think the coaches were kind of like, what do we do with this? And they left them number 1 after they lost. We both have lost to SMU. SMU was unranked when Nebraska played them. They have since moved up to number 10. They've beaten other teams too. So SMU was like not on the radar, and now they definitely are. They will be a player in the NCAA tournament. When the tournament committee, the NCAA tournament committee, they did this like mid-season release. If the season ended right now and the tournament started tomorrow, this is who we think is number 1. And they ranked Nebraska number 1. And they justified it by saying Nebraska has more top 25 wins than Pitt does. And they're quality wins. They were, over, Stanford and Louisville and Creighton. And so Nebraska's beaten more of those teams, and they felt like Nebraska would be the number 1 seed if the tournament started tomorrow. So if Nebraska wins out for the Big Ten, it would be conceivable to think that would remain. But it could also be true that they're still number 2 in that coaches association poll, because that's simply coaches voting.
Right.
It doesn't have really tournament implications, except for however that tournament committee, which consists of athletic directors and regional representatives that create the NCAA tournament bracket. So that we're number 1 is or not number 1 is, it's okay.
It's okay because Linda says it I'm going to put this up. She says it helps to keep us hungry.
Yeah, I don't think it benefits us in any way to be number 1 in the coaches poll. I don't think it changes anything. So yeah, play hard, win games, focus on the point in front of you. I think it'll all turn out fine. I'm not hoping, every Monday the coaches poll comes out with its new rankings based on the games that have been played, and I'm not hoping for anything to change. It's fine either way.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
Oh, I know is something that we should hear an update on. How's Texas doing in volleyball?
Yeah, let's talk about that. They are having a roller coaster of a year. So, and the thing that's happened most recently is they've lost 3 in a row, and they've all been in 5 sets. So, I mean, that hurts your heart if you're a Texas fan. I suppose you're not watching the show if you're a Texas fan, however.
I'm glad you included that disclaimer because it doesn't hurt my heart at all.
So they lost and these were all at home. They lost to Texas A&M, they lost to Missouri, and then they lost to Oklahoma, all in 5 sets in their home court. So and the reason they're losing, I don't watch Texas a lot because they're not on TV a lot, but also because it's Texas. They have a huge roster, and I don't know exactly how they do it. I assume NIL has a lot to do with it. I mean, if you tried to count the people on their bench, it could be 20 people over there, plus the 6 that are out on the court. So 25 to 26 girls on this roster. And they've tried so many combinations of, 2 setters out on the court or different outside hitters, different middles. I think it's just confusing. Volleyball is a sport where I think there is some momentum that gathers throughout matches. You do get,
right.
And I think that's been important for Taylor Landfair. If we go back to Nebraska, getting into a groove, right? We watched her playing level increase to the point where, she was the top point earner for Nebraska against Wisconsin. And that was unexpected. You would have expected Harper Murray to be the top, or Merritt Beeson. Merritt Beeson had a great match too, but Landfair had more kills and she earned more points for Nebraska. So
I think I think it's nice she's getting involved, because at the beginning of the season, she just kind of was there. Texas seems like a school, me talking about excellence in all sports. Texas seems like a school that just wants to buy their way to everything.
Yeah.
Texas has more money than any other school in the nation. And I'm not just talking about their athletic department. They are by far the richest school in the nation. And I can see where they're just going to buy as many championships as in many sports as they can, because they can afford it. But I would weep really hard for them if it backfired on them. It'd be terrible. Okay. Anybody else in the national picture that,
we talked about Pitt, and so Pitt's definitely in the national picture. And if that match ends up happening, Nebraska versus Pitt, that'll be a phenomenal match. I mean, as a volleyball fan, I hope for that. I wish for that. As a Nebraska fan, I'll be nervous for that, because I think those are the two best teams in the country right now. Somebody else could emerge. Before I talk about anybody else, we should mention Creighton. Creighton's the 5th team in the nation. They're legit good. Creighton is very good. The tricky part, they played a great pre-conference schedule and they beat some people. I'm going to struggle to figure out who right now, but Nebraska beat them, but very slim beat them. But now they play their conference, and there's really not any volleyball competition in that conference. Marquette is okay, but they're not the same level as the top teams in the country. So Creighton will absolutely make the NCAA tournament and probably be, in that mid-tier seating, a 5 or a 6 or something like that. So Creighton is legit good and in the conversation as a national championship contender. Louisville's
how do we feel about that?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about Creighton.
No, how do we feel about Creighton being in the top 5?
You mean like we hate Creighton?
Do we?
Well, I think volleyball just has a different vibe to it. I think volleyball is a sport that we'd like to see grow, because Nebraska is the state of volleyball. That's my take on it. I don't hate Creighton volleyball. Basketball, on the other hand, I hope they all, get sores all over their nether regions. But
oh my goodness.
I hate them. Can't stand them. Hope they all have terrible canker sores and allergies to walnuts or something. But when it comes to volleyball, I think there's just a different vibe about that sport, where you kind of want to watch other teams do well, and you want to see them, unless they're named Texas, or unless they're going to stand in the way of us winning a national championship. But I think everybody has that attitude about volleyball, where it's like, the better they are and the funner it is, because it is a great sport. And I think it's better for the sport, and it's better for everybody in the long run. That's my take on it. What do you think, Beth?
I don't know if I have the Nebraska history. I think it's great that Creighton is good. There's more high quality volleyball to watch in the state. I think it produces more quality players. I was checking out the Oregon roster earlier today, and they've got a girl from Papillion, Nebraska on their team in Oregon. So I think when you have successful high school programs and club programs that feed into the colleges, then they're automatically going to feed further out than just the colleges in Nebraska. You're going to find them in places all over the country. So opportunity for those young women, and I'm okay with Creighton being good. But, if we went to Michigan, where I grew up, and we started talking about should Michigan be good or Michigan State be good, I'd have a lot more opinions. So I acknowledge I don't have the history here.
You know what your other big problem is, Beth? You're not bitter like me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And we're happy that she isn't, John.
What? Come on. Just a little bit, it's Russ Rose, whatever the new woman is. Kelly Sheffield. I mean, who
was an officer
who likes him
in the Army. I mean, if anyone has the right to be bitter, it would be Beth.
Well, I get to be talking about volleyball. How can I be angry?
Well, that's
true. See?
Okay. Is there anything else we should do on volleyball? Because we are going to have to switch to football and go into some of this, the talking about being bitter.
Just remember that Nebraska plays on Thursday night against Oregon. It's not on the weekend. So Thursday night in Oregon, and then it's Sunday versus Washington. So kind of different than normal. Is that right?
I think
Saturday versus
Oregon.
Thursday. No, Oregon is
Saturday. Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to stick around for football, or do you want to just go be bitter for some reason?
I'm going to go be bitter. See how bitter I am?
Look at her face. She did that for you, John.
Good job. I'm going to go back and capture that screenshot because we can do that. All right. Do you want to stick around?
No, I'll say go Army on the football front and then leave you to it.
Okay. Thanks for that. See right there. That's another thing we can be bitter about because Army is good at football and we're not. Shit.
My God.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for, we'll have you back
Beth.
again because volleyball will be coming, there'll be fun happening later.
Yeah. We're funneling into the last part of the season. Lots of excitement.
Yeah. All right. Take care, Beth.
Bye.
Bye, Beth.
Bye. There you go. Okay.
And then it was 2.
Now it's just me and bitter Minnie.
Not bitter. Not in the least.
Okay.
But I am a little upset over your video today.
Oh, do you want to do that or do you want to clear out some comments first?
You take the comments, please.
Okay. Charles Hullett a long time ago says, how about that press conference today? Anyone nervous? Anyone get their what for chewed off in the principal's office? We'll keep that in mind. Turd Ferguson's tell us about the election of who's going to replace Satterfield. Never mind me says fire Satterfield, the wide receivers coach, the special teams coach, and possibly the O-line coach. This is unacceptable, and if Rule won't do it, fire him too. Should we discuss any of these?
I mean, I think you covered it pretty good today in your video.
On the video? Okay, I did a video about my case for firing Marcus Satterfield. If you didn't watch that, you can go watch it after the show. Isaac says, and imagine a world where Iowa's offense is way better than Nebraska's.
Oh, my God.
Let's keep that one there. You can go into your thing about why you're upset with me that I made the video I made today. And look at that. You got that thing. You know what? You just did something. You narrowed your eyes. My sister Julie used to do that to me right before she slapped me. She would give me this like cat eye look, like where she narrowed her eyes. And yeah, you did that, and now I'm afraid. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll be over here.
Watched your video, John, and then I saw, oh my goodness, there's like over 4,000 people who watched this video and almost 200 comments, and not one of them disagrees with you. You laid out the perfect argument for why Satterfield should be fired. However, I thought, this is a little bit biased, okay? And if at all possible, I'd like to use my voice here to tell you why. It feels like we've been here before, but we haven't.
Okay.
One win, and everyone would say we're back again. Because we've seen a good team.
Okay.
And the root of the problem is also our greatest gift of the year. 5-star quarterback Dylan Raiola. And I'll tell you why. Because playing a true freshman in the Big Ten at quarterback comes with its own set of growing pains. However, he didn't decide to make Nebraska his home until 11 months ago. Okay? Which gave the coaches 1 month to scramble and shift and go get some wide receivers from the portal to give us more of a passing offense. Because we were going to be running the ball. That was the direction we were headed. Wide receiver wise, we are a little lackluster, but our offensive line only has 2 starters from last season. And we knew cornerback was going to be going in light this year. The first 2 drives of the UCLA game, cornerback Jeremiah Charles started. He hasn't started there before. And UCLA targeted him. They threw to whichever, because he even switched sides, and they threw to the side that he wasn't on. And there were people that were saying Isaac Gifford shouldn't play anymore either, but Isaac Gifford is playing way back, and he's supposed to cover the guys coming up the middle as the last defender. So you see Isaac Gifford running towards the sidelines, trying to help at the very end. He's the last guy. I just think, we look at the Ohio State game. They had 1 offensive lineman that was down, and we just exhorted the crap out of that. That's why we look so good. And now we have 3 guys that are not starting. And I just think, you really have to look at what's missing this year, what's really gone wrong, before you start saying, let's fire people.
Okay.
So that's all I have to say. I had to write it all down because I'm so mad.
Were you really? You were mad at me?
No, I'm mad at the fan base as a whole because everybody seems to kind of want to just fire Satterfield, fire Rule. And you don't.
True.
You could really have to take a look at what has happened over the course of the last 11 months. I mean, I even broke out a timeline. Dylan committed December 18th. January 5th, we got Nayor. January 11th, we got Banks. January 16th, we got our quarterback coach. So within 1 month, all of that took place. I mean, these guys were reacting to, okay, now we have a 5-star quarterback.
Right.
Then August 5th, Teddy Prohaska got injured, season-ending injury. September 14th, Micah Mazuka stopped starting. He started 2 games, and he was fantastic. He was fantastic at Colorado, and he was fantastic at UTEP. And for whatever reason, he's not starting. Personnel reasons. Turner Corcoran tore his hamstring. So all those guys are out. I mean, the offensive line works as a unit, and Dylan Raiola is getting blitzed every single play. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, I told you this before the show. I want people, when I have a whole staff at CornNation, and I never expect everybody to believe the same thing. I don't ever want, in fact, I never want us to all have the same attitudes or express the same things about a situation, because number one, I think it's boring. And number 2, I think if you surround yourself with the people that think the same way you are, you're never learning anything. You're never getting different perspectives on things. I think out of all the things that I mentioned in the video about firing Marcus Satterfield, the thing that bothered me the most that I brought up is name 3 things you can do well. And we don't have anything we do well on offense.
Right.
And I think the reason we don't have anything we do on offense is because our offensive coordinator, honestly, I think Haas said this last night on the show. He's just calling plays. He doesn't really have a structure to his offense. He's just Scott Frost did this a lot. There, I said his name. He just called plays. He literally had a play sheet and he just called plays. And I would think as an offensive coordinator, you would structure this in a way so that you're going to attack a certain weakness on the defense. And if they adjust to that, you're going to attack the next weakness on the defense. Or you're going to look at this and we're going to say, we're going to run around we're going to attack the middle with runs. And, okay, the Osborne thing, I hate to bring this up, but he was really good at it. Mm-hmm. He was an offensive genius. The way that he would set people up to, for example, the two most famous fullback traps ever were Schlesinger going up the middle. I think it was against Miami to score touchdowns, because those were plays where he set those things up, and then the defense didn't expect those things to happen. And Schlesinger, I think it was it Schlesinger or Makovic?
You're right.
Oh my God.
You're right.
I'm sinning because I don't know the exact answer to this. But, the guy's 15 yards down the field before anybody realizes he had the ball. You set those plays up by a series of things you did earlier to make the defense start sucking into the middle or start pulling to the outside. You throw outside bubble screens or wide receiver screens. They're called constraint plays. Why? Because they make the defense go to the outside instead of pulling into the middle. And that's what I don't think we see any of from Marcus Satterfield, is like a structure or a way to set up the defense to be out of position. You run jet sweep.
Yeah.
You run jet sweep motion. You don't always give it to the guy coming over. Sometimes you're just going to run your running back up the middle. And I don't think we do any of that where we're trying to be, deceptive or confuse the defense or throw them off. The other thing that really bothered me about the UCLA game is Wisconsin did this to us when they beat the shit out of us with that jet sweep thing. I'm sorry I triggered everybody with nightmares, but they did the same thing to Taylor Martinez in that game that UCLA did Saturday. And that's their defensive line stood up before the play. And they stood up and they moved around and they confused the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Okay. Somebody made the comment on the video of how to counter that. You walk up to the line, you snap the ball at the first snap, at the first sound. Your team knows that. You're on offense. You take advantage of your cadence. And while they're standing there jumping around waiting for you to get set, because they already know what your cadence is, because it's on fucking film being the same for the last 6 games. You change your cadence and you run immediately when they're standing there, and your linemen bury those guys in the ground, and then they don't stand up and move around anymore because they're not set. All you have to do is do that 2 or 3 times, and UCLA or Wisconsin, back when we were doing that, would have gotten the idea that they can't do that anymore on defense. And then you stop. The other thing is your quarterback doesn't have to stand back there and be all fucking confused a bit. Because you have a plan to deal with that. And that's the other problem. We don't have a plan. We don't have an offense that's structured. It's like we're looking at the defense and we're kind of trying to go, okay, what are they doing now that we can do? Instead of saying, we're going to take charge of this. We're on offense and be aggressive and beat the shit out of them. And those are the things that drive me insane about Marcus Satterfield and the way he runs his offense.
Okay. Well, John, you're right. You were right about something in the video that I liked. You're right that we should have a bread and butter play when everything falls off and we're just like, what do? There should be a bread and butter play that we just revert back to, something we're just really good at that gets us some yardage. And it seems like we don't have that. But I think part of the problem is due to our offensive line.
Okay.
Just saying.
Well, they're not that good. They're not that good. But as an offensive coordinator, you have to look at that and make up for that weakness. Yeah. You have to do this. You have to put people in motion. You have to do counters or misdirection plays. Screen passes are wonderful. I love screen passes. I don't love 8 of them in a quarter. I think it's just okay.
John, we are a mess. We are a mess. But we've been a mess before.
Yeah, we have been a mess before, but I think the problem is people want to see progress.
But
now,
let's just not take it out on the coaches. That's all I'm saying. They're doing their damnedest to try and make this work. And if we had only scored just one more time at the Ohio State game or one more time at UCLA, we'd be having a whole nother conversation.
Yes, we would. But the fact is we didn't, Minnie. We got into the red zone 4 freaking times at Ohio State, and we got 1 touchdown.
Oh, don't remind me. I know.
We got into the red zone against UCLA, and I'll be honest with you. I didn't watch the third quarter because we left my friend's house because I was getting so angry watching the game. I looked at him and I said, Bill, we need to leave because I don't need to fill your house with this negativity, and I don't need to smash your TV. Okay. So we did. And then I watched my phone for the rest of the way home as my wife drove, and I flipped people off going down the freeway for no reason whatsoever. I didn't do that, but because she was in the car. If I was in the car by myself, I probably would have been running people off the road. Yeah, take that, you bastard with the Texas license plate. Anyway.
My gosh. John, I will say this, though. Losing to UCLA has no merit. It matters to us. It doesn't matter to anyone else.
Well,
the recruits that are watching us, the commitments that we want, they cared about that Ohio State game. They're like, look at that team. They were that close to winning. And they're viewing us as somebody who to deal with.
Oh, okay. Okay, a little while ago, Orson Adolph said Rule has to fire Satterfield. I agree with that. I think he probably will at the end of the year because this isn't going anywhere. John Roten says this Saturday was the first time I've questioned Matt Rule as being the right decision coach for Nebraska. Are we moving in the right direction? I don't think Matt Rule is a problem. I really don't. I know that there's been, the tide has turned. And here's the thing. It's like we said to ourselves, well, we took too long on Scott Frost and let him stay 2 years longer than he should have. So we're going to make up for it by getting rid of Matt Rule right now. And that's folly. It's really bad decision. Number one, because Matt Rule has like an $80 million buyout, and you and I, we could start a GoFundMe, but I'm guessing we're not getting to $80 million. And it's just bad decision making to do that kind of stuff. Okay. The other thing about that is this. Earlier this season, we got annihilated by Indiana. And Indiana right now is having the best season in Indiana's history. Indiana doesn't have a great history in football. And everybody's like, well, why didn't we hire Kirk Cignetti? And what I'd like for us to do as a fan base is be honest with ourselves. Be honest with ourselves. If we hired Kirk Cignetti, his name was Scott Frost. He had one undefeated season at UCF, and we hired him. And he didn't work out the way we wanted to. So we have hired Kirk Cignetti before. And if we would have hired the real Kirk Cignetti, I win Google Me guy, we would have all gone out of our fucking minds because his name wouldn't have been big enough for Nebraska. We would have spent the months between he was hired and by the time he started the season of screaming about how stupid this decision was. If we're honest with ourselves, and I would really like it if we're just honest with ourselves. Matt Rule has a plan, and it's a 3-year plan. And is it regressing right now? Yeah, I think it is. When you're not moving forward, we all want to go to a bowl game. The good news is USC is next. And if you want to look at a team that's pretty much regressing, and once their massive shit ton making guy, he's making like $10 million a year, Lincoln Riley, that's a good opponent to come up against because I think we all thought at the beginning of the season that USC would be one of the top teams in the Big Ten. And I think they have a losing record now, if I remember.
John, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Does improvement mean winning one more game than we won last year?
Well, yes, because we go to a bowl game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we still have 3 more chances.
We have 3 more chances.
There you go. And if that's what it takes for improvement to keep the coaches the way that they are and trust in them that they kind of know what's going on, then we'll probably get there. All right.
Linda Wilkins says, I don't think John likes your points.
I don't think so either.
Well,
I don't think a lot of people do, but that's okay.
That's true. Aaron Mostowski said earlier, boo, John's going soft on us because I didn't hate Creighton volleyball. I made up for it by wanting Creighton's basketball to get sores all over him or something. James Boardman says, if we can score 8 more times against Indiana, the other thing is this. Beth talked about how the volleyball team how the volleyball crowd knows volleyball and knows when to cheer and knows how to cheer on rallies, and they know what good volleyball is. And I'd like to think the Nebraska fans, probably more than any other fan base, actually understand football really pretty well. And I think what's really the other part of what's causing this is it's shit football on offense. It's just terrible to watch. It's like watching Iowa before they had an offense. What the hell, man? They fired their offensive coordinator. Now they have an offense, Minnie.
You know what? I've been saying this all season long. We can't score. We can't figure out how to score. James Williams is here, by the way, our buddy. God. The reason we're having this conniption.
I should have him on so we could scream at him.
Yes. He'd be like, I don't know. I think he set us up. He built us up. He's like, yeah, you guys got this. He even gave us a score that had UCLA losing to Nebraska. That was his prediction. The guy from UCLA.
Hello, James. All right. Aaron Rostowski says, we had them on the ropes and should have done what Tom Brady did when the Pats were rolling. He would just get to the line and run a dive play over and over again. Then the D line calmed down. And what he's referring to is when UCLA's line was standing up and moving around on defense. There is a way to handle that. There's a way to counter that. And, we didn't use it when we lost to Wisconsin years ago, and we certainly didn't use it again against UCLA. Pitts Snipe Husker says, no, we wouldn't. I'm not sure what that means. If we crawled to wins all year long, we'd still all be saying the same thing of shit about Satterfield. I think that, what do you think that means?
I think he was talking about the one extra win. Getting excited here.
I think if we if we end up with one more win or maybe even 3 more wins, I think we're all still going to look at this and go, you need to replace your offensive coordinator if we stay in the same position. For the reasons I've made in the video is because 99th isn't good.
No, it isn't.
You can't go and be successful with the 99th best offense in the nation. And the other thing is I want to clarify about Matt Rule. I perceive, and I think I said this when Matt Rule was hired, I don't know if Matt Rule was hired for us to become like a college football playoff contender. That's way off in the distance. It shouldn't be on your minds right now. Matt Rule was hired to wipe the shit stink off this program. And so far we haven't done that. But that's why Matt Rule was hired. And, to get to a bowl game, to get Nebraska football back to respectability. And like I said, to just wipe the stink off the program because there is a lot of stink on this program.
You think it's going to happen in just, what, 16 games? Is that what he has?
Well, I do think that by now we should be seeing that we're going to go to a bowl game. I would expect that at a minimum we'd be 7-5 this year. And here's the other thing. The other thing that I don't think I said in the video is this. Everybody's down on our players. There's a lot of people besides Dylan Raiola, so calm down, Minnie. Don't come through the screen at me. Like that ring girl, I'll have dreams about that tonight. everybody's bagging on our players. The offensive line isn't good. The running backs are mediocre. The receivers are not very good. When you don't have confidence in what you're doing, you're not going to be very good whatsoever. And I think what we're seeing is an offense that doesn't have confidence in what their offensive coordinator is putting out there. I think you really see that in Dylan Raiola because he's regressed. It's kind of like this. When you're in a bad work environment, people call in sick a lot more often than they would otherwise because they just flat out don't want to go to work.
Yep.
Okay. So it goes to show that if our offense, if our coordinator, my opinion, if our coordinator was better and we were scoring more, we'd automatically notice that our running backs are better, that our receivers are better, that our talent looks better. Why? Because they'd all believe in that. They'd all believe in much more in what they're doing, and they would play a hell of a lot better. Your performance just isn't that good when you're not in a good environment. And that's what I think about our football players right now.
James wants to call plays. He says, I'll call plays. James, what are your qualifications? You may be qualified.
You have to have a coat, James.
Yeah. Talking about that UCLA game, that Eric Bieniemy. Yeah. That's a great last name. Mm-hmm. He is, wow. He definitely exploited us in every which way possible.
Yeah. He's been around for a while. And I imagine it made him feel good to beat Nebraska in our stadium again.
Yeah.
So, hats off to him. He did a good job. He did exactly what we're supposed to be doing on offense. And by the way, for people that are thinking Tony White's defense isn't that good, I watched the Ohio State-Penn State game with Ohio State and Penn State people. And I pointed out, as many pointed out earlier, we took advantage of their injured left tackle a lot. And that's one of the reasons why we put so much pressure and they had problems on offense. We exploited a weakness. Penn State, they didn't do that. They did it a few times. I think they had 2 sacks against Ohio State, but they did not attack the left tackle position very much. And, I pointed that out to them. And then my Penn State buddies were like, I'm like, our coach is better. Our coach is better than yours. And they were sad and wanted our defensive coordinator. All right. How we doing? Is there anything else we need to scream about? Probably yes.
Oh, gosh. I don't think so, John. I mean, there's a lot of comments that they're rolling in.
James Boardman says, how about a shout out to Heinrich Harburg? A couple drop passes hurt his stats. That's true. He did throw the ball with conviction. Keep in mind, he was in the game late and he was playing against a different defense than Dylan Raiola was. And when I say that, I mean, he was playing against more of a prevent defense. I do think I said this since they did the whole Dylan Raiola thing. I really think we should have a package for Heinrich Harburg where we're running option. We have a quarterback run game. We have the guy is a weapon in the red zone that we don't have. And we have problems in the red zone, as I pointed out, 127th, 7th nationally. And there's no reason not to be taken advantage of that other than I have no idea what our offensive coordinator is doing.
But okay. There's a great example right there. 9 months of working with Glenn Thomas. And look at Heinrich Harburg. Now, wow, he can throw. He doesn't have the finesse as much as Dylan does, but he can get, he's like, he doesn't miss his target. And that's phenomenal. His throw is improved. His timing is good. It was great to see. I'm so excited about that. I just think, take a breather. Let's let our coaches do what they're supposed to do.
You women are always more forgiving.
Really? You think?
I think so. Yes. Because I go out and read the comment. I go out and read the and to a certain point, and then you're like, cut him into pieces and bury him alive. You know what I mean? Anybody who's ever been married knows they're so forgiving and loving until that point gets turned, and then they're like, I should shut up before I get myself into really trouble. Vince Watson says need a bowl game just for the extra practices. I agree with that. Isaac says, bruh, y'all ain't beating Iowa, USC, or Wisconsin, laughing my ass off. You know what? We don't know what's going to happen. USC is, they're coming apart at the seams. Wisconsin got beat up really badly by Iowa. And you know what? Iowa, who knows?
Iowa's a coin toss. Always.
Marianne Roberts says, not me, which means she's probably a serial killer right there.
Good job, Marianne. Get him.
Fred Sacco says if they're supposed to suck, Satterfield is doing a hell of a job.
All right, Fred. Really?
Oh,
no forgiveness.
We're going to trigger Minnie with this one. Dylan wants to throw baby balls, and Heinrich Harburg throws man balls.
Wow. This is the show to get all your frustration out. Okay.
It is. Well, it is Monday Night Therapy. Okay. Diamond Dave has a long comment. He says, we will never know if Dylan would have won the game as he just led us near the goal line. Probably not with the missed extra point, but it is possible as UCLA is bad enough to blow a game they had won. Well, It was an unfortunate end to that game. So,
because he got injured, that's the problem with that. Dylan was on fire in the second half. He really got going, and he was making those passes and reading pretty good. It was the second half where he got injured too. So we don't know. He might have won the game.
Some guy named Greg says if its and butts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. I don't. Greg. I really do. What does that mean?
I don't know, but it's Greg. What do we do? Now you see what I have to put up with on Thursday nights, John.
Yes. Okay.
Kidding.
What?
I like it. I like all of his little sayings.
Beetle B says, I'm freaking out. Nobody was on fire. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what else we have to go through. Is there anything else?
I
want to bring one thing up. Matt Rule in his press conference today said that he was going to bring outside people in to help them look at what's going on with the football team.
Yeah.
And I noticed that he got beat up about that. And this is a part about being honest that I was talking about as Nebraska fans. Okay. If you go back when Scott Frost was not winning anything, we all looked at Scott Frost, or a lot of people did anyway, and said, why doesn't he ask for help? If he's not able to do this himself, why doesn't he ask for help? And here you have Matt Rule, who's comes right out and says, I'm going to ask for help. In other words, I'm going to bring in people from the outside to look at this. And he gets shredded for it. And you pick one or the other. Stop flip-flopping between what happened last time or what's happening this time. But stop just looking at the situation and being angry about it and then attacking it because you're angry about it. Here's the thing. What if Matt Rule's bringing in Nick Saban to look at things? What if he's bringing in Bill Belichick to look at things? What if he's bringing in Urban Meyer to look at things? By the way, none of those people are going back to coaching. So I know there's going to be, we should hire Urban Meyer. He's not going to coach anymore. Nick Saban has not built this for new era. Okay. Those people are done. So
did you notice that he brought up Tom Brady in one breath? And today, Matt Rule did, playing against Tom Brady. So I was like, maybe he's bringing in Tom Brady to give Dylan some eyes, on the field. Help him to see things.
I don't think it's Dylan that needs help.
Well, I don't think so either, but bring them all in. Bring everybody.
I think Dylan needs some confidence along with the people is around him. Justin Rogge says rumors it's Dana Holgorsen. That's been rumored. That's his next offensive coordinator. Dana Holgorsen has certainly been around for a long time. And here's the thing about being around for a long time. When you're around for a long time, you've done a lot of things, which means you've failed. Because as a consultant, I've run into a lot of other consultants in my life. And I'll tell you, the biggest fucking liars who are consultants are people who say, I've never been fired. I've never been fired by a customer. To my response, they're either lying or they got on their knees so hard they wouldn't have to be fired. So, I've been fired by many customers. If you can imagine, my mouth gets me in trouble. There has been times I've been brought in as a consultant for the sole purpose of being fired. And I'll tell you that if you want to bring that up later, I can tell you those stories about how I was purposely fired.
We need to hear these.
And I agreed to it because it would be fun for me to be fired in that situation. It was really actually great. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Beetle B says our defense is also not that good. Also, you know what? If I went through the stats for our defense that I went through in the video about Marcus Satterfield, they'd be pretty damn good stats. Our defense scoring defense is still, I think, in the top 20.
13th.
And that's a good defense. So you gave up 27 points. Well, your defense gave up 20 points to UCLA. You gave up 21 points to Ohio State. You kept Ohio State at, I think it's half of what they normally score. That's a good defense. So our defense is good. Have they had their moments? Yeah. But like I said, about if you put yourself out there and you do a lot of things, you're going to fail sometimes, and we're going to give up big plays like the Jeremiah Smith long touchdowns type stuff. Linda Wilkins says, John, we're at 85 minutes. Yeah, we are getting a little long here.
Yeah, and Fred Sacco.
Fred Sacco says, tell us how you didn't get on your knees, John. I'm not going to tell these stories right now because it's late.
John, you need to just have a channel where you just tell us about your stories and you give us your rants on those stories, because that's all we want to hear. That's like soothing for us. After we've been through a killer weekend like this, we need to hear somebody else has it worse than us. Okay.
Pitt Snipe Husker says, as a consultant, they don't have to fire you. They just don't renew the contract. No, in my case, that pretty much never happens that way. All right. Aaron Keene says, here's a positive. The band was good. Well, that's all right.
Jeez. Oh my goodness. There you go.
All right. Pitt Snipe Husker said, I thought that it was this channel. See?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you feel better, John?
Yes. Pitt Snipe Husker comes back and says, okay, John, I was a coddled consultant. Must have been. I was never coddled. I was just told by my boss, could you not say some of the things you say?
My gosh.
Okay, anyway.
What is that?
Fred Sacco says, triggering Minnie as just, you're going to have to break. This is going to have to tide over to Thursday night because we're running out of time, and my head
will write this down, Fred.
About hers hurting a lot. Fred Sacco says, still telling you, Heinrich Harburg should start over Dylan for the rest of the season. David Matney says, what did I miss? A lot of screaming. And, a lot of good volleyball talk. Come on, David, what are you
Great
doing?
volleyball. All right.
Okay. I think we're going to be done now. Everybody hit the like button.
Please.
And,
don't
what?
forget we have merchandise. John, we wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Since it's the bye week, are we going to run any kind of specials on merchandise this week?
I was thinking that we should have discounts soon.
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch more of these Cobby stickers because we actually sold these.
Good. I'm still waiting for mine.
What?
I ordered.
Seriously? Yeah.
Like a half dozen or something. I don't even know.
You ordered 5. That was in the mail a week ago, at least.
Oh, okay.
What the hell? Where did you have me send them?
I thought they were sent to me.
To your house?
I'll have to double check.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check. That'd be funny if I had them sent somewhere else. Somebody opens up all these Cobby stickers.
Okay. I think that's going to be it. I never know how to end this. So just good night, Minnie. And you know what?
Look and look for a discount code on merchandise. Because that would be good.
Black Thursday or whatever Black Friday is coming up, and Christmas is coming, so we'll have to discount things.
That's a good idea.
You know what? And you're welcome to disagree with me anytime.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And apparently 85,999 people.
Yes. Goes with the territory. I mean, if you're going to do this, you should have strong opinions. Otherwise, why bother having them?
Well, I'm just a lot. I want to look at it from all angles, not just one.
That's a good idea.
I appreciate your perspective. I just wanted to look at it from another. Okay?
Yes. Oh, okay. And Minnie will be back on Thursday night if there's still a country Thursday. Woohoo! Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night, Minnie.
Good night, John.